Hello.
Okay, let me try this again. Hello, everyone. My name
Hello.
is Sheila Iruspi. I am your club retention lead, and I'm going to talk about a topic that Toastmasters deal with every year. Now, if you deal with semi annual elections, that means you do elections twice a year. So you do elections November and May. Or what most people do are annual elections. And annual elections are what we are in right now. And we typically do elections in May or early June in our district. And the idea is that we want to have your officer list in to Club Central in Toastmasters.org by the end of June. Does that make sense? So that's the reason why we love to do elections. Well, we don't love it, but it's something we do because we want to encourage the next officers to move forward in their leadership journey. Let me share my screen. Share screen. Okay. Do you see my do you see my screen? Pass the baton. Okay, good. Okay. Before I start, let me talk about myself. So you know that you're talking to someone who has done club elections for many years. I've been a Toastmaster since 2009. I belong to two clubs currently. I used to belong to three. And I have handled the elections for one of my clubs or both of my clubs, depending upon what's going on, every year. So I've been doing it for years. So this you're hearing from someone who has run elections, and I have run elections for my corporate club, and I've run elections for my community club. So I've served in both types of clubs. And my community club is in person, and my corporate club is a hybrid. So we have a Teams link and we have an in person element to that. Now, before I move forward, let's see who's joined us today. I have my fellow growth panelist, Yolanda. She's our club extension chair. So say hi, Yolanda, and tell us what club you're from and your experience with club elections.
Well, hello, everyone. I'm Yolanda Parks. I am with Philly Forum Club. I have been with my club since 2016, and I have been a club officer from 2016 to 2025. This is the first year that I have not been a club officer. However, I have held every officer's role except the club sergeant of arms. So I'm very familiar with the elections process from
Cool.
an officer level and as well from a member's level. So,
Okay. Let me go to all the officer roles that you get to talk about. Let me share my. All right, I kind of clicked through it. Give me a second. Whenever you try to click through it, it doesn't let you. There you go. These are the officer roles that Yolanda was referring to. There are 7 club officer responsibilities roles that a person can hold. There's the president, the vice president of education, vice president of membership, vice president of public relations, the treasurer, the secretary, and of course, the sergeant at arms. I also have served in all 7 officer roles at my various clubs. So I know all of the roles and the responsibilities that people have done in these roles. Now, let me move on to asking who else is on the line. Let's see. I have my slideshow on, so I'm trying to get to my the Zoom call. Who else wants to tell me? Right. Why can't I find it? I have to get Rosalind in. Sorry. Give me a second. I have to let someone in from the waiting room. Escape. My computer is not cooperating today. Okay. My cat. Okay. Is this going to on? I'm sorry. I'm trying to get into the Zoom call to let someone in. I'm trying to. How do I get those? This is why you should have a Zoom master.
No worries. Look, Sheila, if you want to make me a co-host, I don't mind taking that kind of Zoom master role while you're
Oh
doing the
my gosh.
presentation if you like
I'm
to.
trying. Yeah, don't mind me. I'm just trying to get, I'm trying to let someone in. I'm like, how do I get someone in here? Okay. Uh, that's it. Technical difficulties. Don't mind us. Don't mind me. I'm just trying to find it. Okay, let's get out of my Zoom. I would give you Zoom role, but I can't seem to find my screen. Where'd my screen go? Hmm. Uh, Close window. In Zoom. Zoom. Yay, found it. Gosh. Okay, I'm in Zoom. Back tab. I'm not in Zoom. Close window and pin from taskbar, new window. Can I get in there? Patience. Unpin from taskbar. Pin, close window. Okay, there it is. No, that's not it. I have the Zoom thing hidden. Hmm. Okay, I have it on. Admit. Yay! Oh my God, that took forever. How do I make you a host?
I think
It
if
is
you
on under more.
or if you
Stop.
yes, if you click on the three dots by my name, it
Hmm.
should be an option that says make co-host.
Okay. Yes.
Okay.
Okay, that was annoying.
Oh no, we survived it. It's what
I survived
Toastmasters do.
5 minutes. Okay. Let's reset. Hi, everyone. I was going to ask for the participants in the call to let me know what club they're from. Just say what club and how long you've been a Toastmaster. That's it. Pretty two questions. So uh, let's start with Rena.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Raina Newkirk. I
Hi.
am, hi, I am a member of Now Here It Is in Carlisle, Pennsylvania, and Effective Communicators in Pennsylvania, in Carlisle, Pennsylvania. I am a secretary and VPE. Have been a member with Toastmasters since 2024, so not that long.
Okay, cool. Let's start with Rosalind. Go for it. How long
Hi,
have you been a
Sheila. Hi,
Toastmaster?
everybody.
Yes, I know who you are. So how's it going? I was having the
I
hardest time letting
I
you in.
I am president of Jolly Road Toastmasters. We are located in Bluebell. Since COVID, we have been virtual. I have been a Toastmaster since 2009.
Cool. That's as long as I have. Daniel, just introduce yourself and what club? I think he's on mute. Maybe he can't join us. Can't hear us. Okay. I don't think Daniel's can be unmuted, which is fine. He can be an observer. Okay, let's continue with my presentation. Let me go back to club elections. Now that everyone's here. Okay, let's go to slideshow again from current slide. As I mentioned before, oh, am I sharing?
Not
I'm
yet.
not.
Not yet.
Okay, let me share the screen. How do I share the screen? Share on the bottom.
Here you go.
Okay,
We can see you.
now you see my screen.
Yes.
Yay! Let's hold the questions for when I just go through this initial information. Then we can have as many questions as we can. Okay, there are 7 officer roles, as we well know. And we mentioned that some of us serve more than one, which is normal many times, especially when you're dealing with clubs that have minimal or lower number of members. So you have to have people serve in more than one role. So let's move forward. And I'm just trying to move my screen forward. How do I get my screen to go forward? Uh, okay. Now, in Toastmasters International, when you go farther down, you see Leadership Central. And Club Central is where all the club officers do all the officer duties. This is where you go in to update your officer list. You also have two other buttons that you can push. There's a club officer role button. That's where you can learn about all the elected positions I just mentioned. So all 7 of them will be discussed. And there's a club officer tutorial where you can listen and hear in a YouTube format about all the officer roles. And I found it very useful. Now, how do you do elections? This is an overview. You do not have to do every single thing, every box. But this is in an ideal world, everyone is doing the election like this. This is the recommended election procedure by Toastmasters. So before the election, you have what we call a leadership nomination team. And that's typically 3 members, the immediate past president, and 2 other members that are of good standing and can help the immediate past president. It doesn't have to be the immediate past president, but that's what happens at some clubs. Well, you have that nomination team, and their job is to ask people whether or not they accept the nomination for roles. Then the meeting before your election, you disclose the nomination list to the membership. And when you want to have your election, you want to make sure that you establish quorum. Quorum is 50% plus 1. So if you have 20 members, let's say you have 20 members, 50% plus 1 is 11, because it's 50% plus 1 more member. Now, at the actual election, what you typically do is you invite all the members, so no guest can vote. It's only members, and they have to do their vote. The vote closes, motion is adopted, announce the winners, the president-elect addresses the club, and you, of course, have a group photo celebrating the fact you have a new executive committee. Now, for people who have been a Toastmaster for a while, they know this election procedure doesn't always occur as idyllic as it looks, but that's the procedure that they recommend. Now, in my club, I belong to a corporate club. One of the jobs of the nomination committee is to ask for nominations from the membership. And how we do that at my corporate club is that we send a survey out to all our members, and we say in this survey, the election process is anonymous. Nominate paid members for an officer role. And they can nominate whoever they want to be president, vice president of education, vice president of membership, vice president PR, secretary, treasurer, sergeant arms. So all 7 officer roles. And of course, we have a close date for the elections that are going on. The close of the nominations will be June 5th. The elections will occur on June 10th. And as you can see, that this hasn't actually launched yet. So this is a draft. But that typically is a survey that I would send out to get nominations. And the nomination committee asks the people who were nominated whether or not they want to accept the nomination. And how we handle it at my clubs is that you might be nominated for 3 roles, and you have to say, do you decline all 3 roles? And then if you accept the role, then you say, okay, my first choice is president. My second choice is vice president of education. My third choice is secretary. So we typically ask them to tell us what their first, second, and third choices are if they do accept the nomination. That's if they accept the nomination. They can also decline all nominations. When you actually do the election process is you use Robert's rules, which is parliamentary procedure. So the first thing you do is you do a first call, a motion to accept the nomination or call for floor nominations if there is no one on the ballot. Then they tell you you have to call that motion a second time, and then last call, and then you close the nominations. If you understand parliamentary procedure, the process is you have to make the motion, someone in the club has to second the motion, and then you discuss it, and then you vote. This is a simplified version of Robert's Rules. Robert's Rules, if you ever looked at it, is 480 pages long. So if you really wanted to learn about parliamentary procedure, you can do an entire thesis on it. But in for our purposes, we want to make it as simple as possible. The reason we do parliamentary procedure, because people ask me this, the reason you do parliamentary procedure is because you want one person to speak at a time. You want the majority to have a say. So that means majority gets the vote, 50% plus one. And the third thing is minority they can speak. So parliamentary procedure is important for that reason. And it's very orderly. If you go to your state board or your school, they always use parliamentary procedure. Another thing that I found very useful in the Toastmasters website is there's a frequently asked questions. You might not know this, so I'm going to point it out. These are questions that people pose all the time. And this is available. Just do on the search, club officer elections, frequently asked questions. And these are the questions that come up. One of the questions that I thought was something I hear a lot is, my club has always held club officer elections in person. Now that we meet online, what is the correct procedure? And I always say there's an election process that is in the club leadership handbook. The only difference is how you collect ballots. With the online version, you can now just send the ballot to a specific person, your ballot counter, or email that person. So ballots are cast in that method, but it can still be done online. You just have to make sure that your chat or whatever way you use to collect ballot is permissible for your club. And the last page I have is, one of the tips I have for having effective elections is, if you can, use a script. It's found in the leadership manual. Plan in advance. All officer lists must be in by the end of June 2026. Ideally, I recommend having the club elections in May, so you're not faced with a lot of that time. But you want to make sure you have quorum. So it can happen in June, in early June, as long as you have quorum so that you can have an effective election. In January, this is just in general, think of succession. Who can serve this role in the new term? And remember that all leaders are in your clubs currently. So there are people in your club that can serve as a leader. So that's a nice little short summary I had. Now that I kind of told people what I think about elections, let me now refer to that club leadership handbook that I mentioned earlier. Let me just go to it. So let me share my screen again. So this is a club leadership handbook. It's available on Toastmasters website. Just look up club leadership handbook and it will come up. And it's a download. And club elections, if you're interested, it's, I think, in page 58. I keep going down. Da, 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 da. Not 58. I was wrong. It's here, the election process. So this will basically tell you exactly the process: accepting nominations, asking for nominees, asking for instructing members to cast their ballots. Now it's time to talk about the details, which is always fun. So I'm going to show you a script so I can kind of like walk you through a normal election. So let me just go to my script now. Script. Am I still sharing, Yolanda?
Yes. Yes,
Okay.
you are.
Okay. Now this is a script I've been using for years, and I will be willing to share it with the people on the call. It's pretty standard. But the chairperson typically opens, and I give elections maybe 15 to 20 minutes. And for each position, I will call for nominations 3 times. I actually mentioned that. This is after you go through the nomination slate. So if people already said that they're running for office, then I can say, this person is running for office, and do we have anyone else on the floor who wants to run for office? Declare nominations closed. If there are no candidates for the position, if there are no other candidates for the position, I will instruct the club board to search for a candidate and hold elections at a different time. Now, I mentioned before that there are 3 people that you can't do that for. You must have a president, you must have a secretary, and you must have 1 VP. But for the other officer roles, you can instruct the club board to search for a candidate. I'm just letting you know. And if there is only 1 candidate, I advise the secretary to cast the deciding ballot. The only time you actually need the ballot is when you have more than 1 person interested in a role. And how they decide who to vote for is it goes by alphabetical order. So let's say there's an Alice and a Bob. Alice will speak, well, it's last name. I'm sorry. So Alice Anderson will go first. And then James Bach will go second. So you go by alphabetical order when you actually have them speak about why you want to vote for them. And after they are done speaking, that's when you do the vote. And you can do the vote through WebEx, you can do it through email, you can do it through Election Runner. It doesn't really matter, as long as you're doing it in an appropriate manner and there's a ballot counter who's counting the ballots. And the other suggestion I have is you always go in order. So the president is always voted first. Then you vote for the VPE, VP membership, VP PR, secretary, treasurer, sergeant arms. In our club, we actually have, this is a member at large. Member at large is a club created officer role. So they're not involved in Toastmasters. They're Toastmaster, but it's not a role that you have to put in the officer list. And I'm trying to move forward. And you call all the candidates in alphabetical order and then have the members vote by secret ballot, have the votes counted, read the results. Then you have your election. As easy as that. Of course, that's what we say. But I try to give elections 15 to 20 minutes in a meeting. And the chairperson could be your VPV, it could be your president, it could be anyone in the club, as long as they follow the process. I've been doing a lot of talking, but Do people have questions for me? Let's stop sharing. Stop sharing.
Hi, Sheila. I have a quick question.
Yes.
I'm sure it's in the handbook. I haven't read it recently. I was going through some stuff today and I had our officers meeting this
Mhm.
morning. And one of the questions came up is what is the qualifications? And I always thought it was you had to have given your icebreaker and be in good standings and have been a Toastmaster for at least 6 months. But then I was told that you have to also be on level two. Is that correct?
Uh, I do not think you have to be a level 2
I didn't think so either. And I said, well, I have to do some research on that one.
because I do. There are some positions which we do not let the newest person
Right.
quit, like the president and the vice president of education.
Mm-hmm.
But the rest of them, I mean, you can walk through the door as long as you're a paid member. You can serve as an officer role.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
But I haven't seen it in the club leadership manual, and I'm opening it. I'm looking
Okay.
at it right now. So
Thank you.
there is no qualification for level 2 that I know of. Uh, it just says every club needs leaders who can move the club forward. And that's everybody. One of the duties as a club officer is to identify members. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, it doesn't really tell me much.
Okay.
These are pretty general.
Thank you for that answer. And I got one more.
Go ahead.
What about if certain officers that you already have, they would like, because we know we can only do certain roles for 1 year.
Mhm.
But suppose the treasurer or someone else that didn't have a role wanted to be a president.
Okay.
We already know this. How do we work around that during the election? Because with the process now, we have to, put nominate somebody. So can we nominate them in advance, even before we hold the elections, because they've already put the desire in that this is what they want to do? Like right now, our treasurer, she does this for a living, so she already said, I would love to stay on as your treasurer. This is something that she gets joy out of because she does it for a living. Can we keep her on as treasurer?
The only thing about it is that you do not want to have the president and the treasurer as the same person.
Oh, no, 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 no. They're different people.
Okay, good. The reason why is because of the mingling of funds, because you
Yeah,
always have.
they're different people.
Okay. So you have a person who's interested in being
President.
president. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And what's the whole.
Our treasurer. Can we keep her on as treasurer? Is what I'm trying to say, or do we have to say no? You can't do it again this time. Let somebody else have a chance.
As long as the person who's treasurer is not the same person as president.
Nope, not the same person. Mm-mm.
So they can continue on as treasurer. The
Okay,
only role that you cannot continue on consecutively is the
it's
president role.
president, right?
So whoever your
And that
president
would
is,
be me. I'm the president, so
yeah,
I'm
whoever the president is cannot. It won't let you if you go to the officer, the drop down list. It
right,
won't even pick
right.
your name. You're not in the list, so
Okay,
they won't even let you.
okay, all right.
Now, I have seen people who have served as technically president, but they are branded as vice president of education. So they
Okay.
sort of like do the president role and the vice president of education role at the
Mm-hmm.
same time. I've seen that happen too.
Thank you, Sheila, for your help. I appreciate you.
No problem. Yolanda, you have something to mention?
Oh, I
What?
was just going to mention that I had the pleasure of being a president in consecutive years just because when COVID happened, it was new to everybody. And
Oh,
that was the only year that 2020 where they wanted to keep the clubs going on. So if a club wanted to continue going from, we were an in-person club and we had to transition into a virtual club. So I was just throwing that out there. I don't, it's not meant, they have changed the rules back to the presidents are not supposed to serve consecutive years in a row. But I just
well,
had
the
the pleasure
reason
of doing
for it
that.
is because they don't want someone to monopolize the club. They want
Absolutely.
they want different people in the top roles, as they say.
Oh, and that I just wanted to point out too that you just taught me something new in this meeting. Our club, my club is a corporate club, but
Mhm.
when we had done elections, we haven't done them right in the middle of the meeting, which is very new at the club level for me. I didn't know that that was a thing. We put the nominations out and then sent the members a survey or the election process in the following week. So they did it all anonymously. It was counted
Oh, you
at
do it
not
through
during the
the
meeting, right? They we
Oh,
gave
you
them
do it
more
you
time
do
to
a
think about it.
survey.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
The
And then they
reason
came
why they
back.
wanna do it during a club meeting is in case you have a contested role, because you have to hear each one speak so you can vote for who is the best speaker. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I'm
Such a
going to
big
take this back to my club where
section.
it actually makes the process a little easier for us too, because compiling all of the nominees and stuff together, making sure the Zoom meeting is set up to have the poll done in the meeting will actually be easier than us doing the survey later on and then having to come back and
Well,
do it.
I used to survey in order to collect nominations. For me, that's easier because I can do a cut and paste of all the paid members into my survey. So it's easy for me. It's like, oh, look, a list of people. So you don't have to think on who's a paid member, who's not a paid member. You can just look at the list. It's like, okay, you're probably going to be a good whatever office it is, and then move forward. And once I have a list of nominees, then I can reach out to each person individually and ask them if they accept the nomination or decline the nomination.
Thank you. Thank you.
One question I got asked is, can you nominate someone who's not present at the meeting? And my answer to that is you can, as long as that person has accepted the nomination. So let's say I'm going to pick on Yolanda. Yolanda wasn't going to be at the next meeting, which is elections. You can still have Yolanda as an officer just as long as Yolanda permits, she says yes. It's like, yes, I want to serve that role. So I was like, okay, I'll keep that in consideration. So the people on the ballot are people who said yes to serving the role. You cannot put people who did not accept the nomination on the ballot. I'm trying to think of other questions people might have. Oh, this one, I think this was pretty interesting. Figuring out quorum, because this has come up. There are people in your club who are not actively participating. So, one of the things you can do as your club board is you can make them inactive. Does that make sense? So at my club, at my corporate club, we have 3 members who are not actively participating, so that means that they don't come to the meeting, even though technically they're paid till September. However, they haven't come to a meeting since last December. So they're not active members. So in terms of the election, you can actually inactivate them for the sake of deciding quorum. So that rather than trying for 11, like remember, club has 20 members, 11 is quorum. By eliminating 3 members, now your quorum is now 10. It helps if you're trying to get quorum, if you think about it. But you only do that if you're really struggling to find quorum. What other questions do we have? A struggle for a lot of clubs is that even though you ask for nominations, you tell people, please serve as officer, please serve as officer, please serve as officer, and you're sometimes talking to crickets, as they say. What do you do then? It's like, what next? Well, my response to that is that there might be, you might have to have offline conversations with people to see if they're willing to serve in the role and just encourage them to serve in the role. I especially like to get newer members, like Toastmasters less than a year, involved with Toastmasters becoming an officer. Like I have them be secretary or sergeant arms or one of those roles so that they know what happens behind the scenes. And even though they're not ready to be, vice president of education or vice president of public relations, getting them with an officer role early on really helps the club because you get someone who's newer to your club involved with the officers. I think that's useful. You agree, Yolanda, Rosalind?
Oh, absolutely.
Yes, I do. I have another question. We may have 2 new members join in within the next week.
Okay.
Both of them are away on vacation. Would they be allowed to vote once they get paid or no? Because they haven't been active long enough and haven't the icebreaker and they haven't been a member for 6 months. They would be brand new. Would they be ineligible to vote? I want to
Well,
say they would be, but I don't know for sure.
I think in some cases you can suspend that role because
Mhm.
you need to have an officer role filled. It's based upon your club to do that, but
Okay.
because ideally you want them to do an icebreaker, but I
Right.
think it's gonna prevent you from having them as an officer if that's the person that wants to step up in that role.
Hmm. Okay. These people probably would not, but both of them are like executive CEOs of their companies.
Mhm.
I'm like, oh, but I'm just thinking, I wouldn't ask them to be an officer. I think we know who we want, but we have to, put the names in and let the members decide.
Yes.
But I just wanted to
And
know. Go ahead.
how do you handle elections? Do you do like a simple ballot?
Yes, we do a simple ballot.
Okay.
And what we usually do is like call them, like we talk amongst ourselves, the officers, and say, who do you think would be a good fit for this role? And then we all decide who we thinks would fit this role, would fit that role, and then we call them offside and say, you know, we're about to do our elections, and we were thinking about asking if you would be interested in doing this role. And if they say yes, then we don't really have to go through all of that stuff. We already know who we have, and we just have the meeting and nominate them, and then bam, and it's done. But we're
Yeah, if
going
there's only one person for each position, it's very
right.
easy. It's
Yeah.
like, okay, cast and vote. Everyone voted.
Yeah. That's how we do it.
I mean, I've seen that happen too. So, okay. One thing I do want to say about club officer elections after you have your club officer elections, invite your club officers to go to your new officer installation, because we usually have our club officer installations in June or early July, probably early July. But that's when we thank the people who were past officers, and then we invite the new officers to stand up and pass the gavel from person to person. And we induct them as the new officers for the club. And we have that every year. So it's good to do. It shows continuity in your club, even if they're different roles that the person, maybe they were treasurer before, now they're vice president PR. It's still a different role. And you can do this online too, because we have done it online. One thing that they mention here is that if there is a vacancy in the office, you could have a special election held at the next meeting following the announcement of the vacancy. Let's say someone who was elected in July, by November can no longer serve in that role. You can have a special election in December to fill that role. So don't think that person has to think, oh, I can't do it anymore. You can always have a special election later on.
Well, I think too that a reminder to anybody who is interested in becoming an officer at the time of elections is to let them know that club officer training is
Oh,
available
yeah,
and
that's
be right
very
around the
important.
corner, right? So people don't think that they're just jumping into the role and only have their current club members as a resource. So let them know that there are other resources that are required and available as the officers.
There are so many resources available for club officers. Not only do we have Toastmasters.org, where when I mention under club, where all the leadership part is, where they mention all the YouTube for each officer role. They talk about each role individually. You also have the district website, and you have the person who held the office before. One of the things I think is a best practice at my club is that the previous person who held the club officer role and the one who is going to be taking it over in July, they meet. So between June and July, they have a one-on-one with each other so they can talk about that role and specifically what they have to do in that role for that club, for our club. We call it the transition meeting. And having a transition meeting is important because you have a link to that other person and they can help you navigate what that role, what you're supposed to be doing. Like if you're Sergeant Arms, as Sergeant Arms, what am I supposed to be doing? Like, where's the banner? Where's this? Where's that? It's like, okay. It doesn't have to take that long. But I think it's important to have that sort of transition. And the other transition we have is that we invite to our executive board meeting the new officers and the outgoing officers so that they know who they are and they can talk. But any best practices you can think of, Yolanda?
You really are knocking it out the park, Sheila. Everything that I was going to add as an additional side, you came right on up with it. Uh, I just think part of making sure you get new officers is hopefully the current officers, even though sometimes they're trying to get out of there, if they're not officers that want to remain in the role, is to try to keep a positive outlook on it and
Mm-hmm.
not overwhelm the people who are trying to come in. That can be a big, daunting message that we do when we're talking about elections. But if we remind those who are being nominated, those who are being considered for the officers' roles, to let them know this is a leadership opportunity. These are open doors that can actually help you expand your personal development. So it's not just, yeah, you're taking on a bunch of responsibility, but to make sure they know what's in it for them. They'll see their growth by accepting this challenge or this new role.
Let me piggyback on that. One of the roles that I filled was vice president membership. And what I learned being vice president membership is you determine what you want to do as vice president membership. So there are people who are very gung ho as vice president membership. Other people are more organized, but you just have to find what works for you and what works for the club. Just as long as I like to tell people what the vice president membership is they convert the prospects to, well, the prospects who are interested to become members, and they make the process to become a member as clear as possible so it's not too complicated. So they make it easy. The role of the VP of PR is to get people through the door. It's pretty easy. It's like, so PR, get prospects in. Membership is the person who gets the membership process started. Do we have any questions from Rena or Daniel?
I have no questions so far.
Oh, cool. Did we just cover everything? I'm just kidding.
It's a lot of
Daniel,
information.
Daniel, do you have any questions? Nice. Okay. I'm trying to think what other items you might be interested in. One thing I like to tell officers is that you're not in it by yourself. Your team. You have the president, you have the vice president of education, vice president of membership. You have 7 members.
Mhm.
And the eighth member you have is the immediate past president, should be part of your executive board as well. So you have historical knowledge as well as the current team to help you out. What were you going to say, Rosalind?
I was going to say in the past, way, way back in the past, when it was election time, we would have the president or someone in the club to give a speech about the roles so that they would know what the roles entail. And this coming Wednesday, I plan on giving a speech about the meeting roles, not the officers' roles, but about the meeting roles, which I got off of Toastmasters website, how they can help with real world skills. And I thought that would be something good for our members, especially our newest ones, to help them know what to expect. You know, like what does a Toastmaster do, and what does a speaker do, and what does a timer do? So I'm going to do that this Wednesday at our club meeting.
There you
Help
go.
help them.
For the past 4 meetings, starting in April, my corporate club, Merck West Point, we had what we call an officer call out, where 2 of the officers have the time at near the end of the meeting, like after the evaluations. They talk about their club role, officer role, for 2 minutes. So basically a table topic. And they tell people how long it takes, the approximate, what do they do. So we kind of have it, but it's like bite sized. We do it, we talk about each role, and we mention the commitment level and why we like doing it.
That's
So
awesome. I love it.
yes, that's another way to do it. Rather
Yes,
than
thank
having
you.
in one whole meeting, I mean
Mhm.
one speech, you can have it broken up. Cool. Okay. Do you have any tips we can share, Yolanda? We're near the end.
The other tip that was different from what you showed me that was to do with you have options of how to get the nominations done and the elections done by either using the meeting time or sending an email or a survey outside of meeting time and then have the results just delivered during the meeting. Those are it's options of getting it done, but just to make sure it's done before June 30th is one of the biggest takeaways I would have about meeting elections. Good.
And remember that having your officer list is important for
Hmm.
distinguished club. Well, half a point, because it's the administrative point where you have to make sure you have your officer list in before June 30th.
And that's like a gift from the old team to the new team. The first gift that you can get to the new
Yes,
officers is make sure that list is done. Point one, they start
point
off on the positive.
half a point. I call it the
Oh, yes.
administrative point.
Hmm.
Every club should get this point.
Yes.
Every club.
Yes. 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 Yes.
And I like when a new president comes in, I like when they address the club, when they do their acceptance speech at my club. It just sets the tone for the
Hmm.
new year, even though it hasn't started yet. They're president elect, but the new year is July 1st, so it's coming up.
Hmm.
Having that person come up and say, "Hey, I'm excited about being president elect, and I hope to do this and this. Thanks for voting for me, and we're ready to go." But that just sets the tone, which is cool. And don't be and tell people why club officer is important. One of the things you do when you first join Toastmasters, we do a Toastmasters pledge. I don't know if everyone remembers it, but in the pledge you say if you're called upon by your club members to serve as an officer, you will. So if someone nominates you, that should be an honor. And you can always nominate yourself. As they say, you can always nominate yourself too. I think I am at time. Am I at time yet? I have 3 more minutes. Oh, I'm racking my brain to think of any other club officer questions. If for some reason you cannot have your club officer election at the regular club meeting, Toastmasters does allow you to have a separate meeting for elections if you needed one. I didn't know that. I'm like, you can? Okay. Because it's important to have the right amount of people present. With the end with Memorial Day weekend, that's the reason why we're not having it in May, because no one will be around for our elections were supposed to be the last Tuesday of May, but we couldn't get quorum. So that's why it's going to be the first meeting in June. But it's really important that you have the right amount of people so you can vote. Because if you don't have quorum, your election isn't uh, it's not valid. It has to have you have to have quorum to make it valid. And elections are why is how we kind of encourage people to become office, how we encourage people to be leaders. Because I see people who become president. The next term, they're going to be area director. Next term, they're going to be division director. Next term. So you never know where just one officer role can move them up. It's kind of cool if you think about it. Okay. I think I finished my talk and I'm at 1 minute. Thanks everyone for joining me. Yolanda, thank you for joining me. Rena, Daniel. It was
Thank
awesome.
you, Sheila.
Thank you, Sheila.
Hopefully I'll talk to everyone soon.
All right, take care.
Awesome.
Bye,
Have a good
everybody.
evening. Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.